The two commitments this week: Philip Riley, flip from USC. Joshua Bryan, the kicker, flip from Colorado. There are some other potential flip watches that we are going to talk about here. Big fish out there on the recruiting front. So we'll just go through a couple of these guys, and then another recruit that a lot of people are asking about here in the comment. Caleb Johnson, Ocala Trinity Catholic down in Florida, is a high 3-star. I respect the Rivals analysts. They have such a brutal job to rank all these people. It's literally an impossible job, but this is not one I agree with. I think he's a bona fide 4-star prospect for sure. Committed to Auburn in May, is a Fort Wayne kid who moved down to Central Florida early in high school. And look, Notre Dame told Johnson, we are not going to stop recruiting you, even if you're going to commit to Auburn. And that's been the case. There have been times where it's been a little bit slower than others, but the Irish are really picking it up here. We talk about the DB class kind of adding a cherry on top of Sierra Wright. Man, I love this offensive line class. Blake Fisher, 5-star. Pat Coogan, a high 3-star, who I think if he had a senior season would have had a good shot at a 4-star, but he picked Notre Dame over LSU, Ohio State, Michigan, Oklahoma. So big time offer list. You have Joe Walt, my personal probably favorite recruit in the class, got bumped today from a 5.5 low 3-star to a 5.6 mid 3-star. His dad's John Alt, played in the NFL for 8-9 years, Kansas City Chiefs, 2-time Pro Bowler. Brother plays in the NHL, so I love Joe Walt. Rocco Spindler, of course, big-time interior player. Man, if you had Caleb Johnson, this 2021 recruiting class for Notre Dame, I mean, there could be more surprises that we're not even really on, aware of right now. Like, not only is the 8-0 start in the number 2 ranking really helping Notre Dame, Mason, but the coaches are really putting in the work as well.
Yeah, they certainly are, and it certainly helps that you beat the number 1 team in the country with everyone in the country, in the world watching. Um, Everybody's eyes were on that game, including Caleb Johnson, I'm sure. Whether you're a Notre Dame guy, Clemson guy or not, everybody was watching that game. And for Notre Dame to pull that off, I think, well, you and I highlighted it. It was in our articles recently. It's that next step for Notre Dame. Notre Dame was a good program. Now they're pushing towards elite. Knocking off the number 1 team in the country without Trevor Lawrence or not. I don't care. You beat the number 1 team in the country, and recruits take notice of that. They want to be a part of building something great, something magical. And Johnson, he can add a really big element to the offensive line class, and only continues to get better. They say Notre Dame's offensive line and it can continue if they can flip Caleb Johnson.
Another potential flip is Kelvin Gilliam from Highland Springs High School. If you've been in Richmond, it's the high school that is right off. It's like literally 2 minutes from the Richmond airport. I went to Richmond twice last year, once in May and once in October, mainly to see Chris Tyree. Once the one in May was a couple weeks before he committed, and then the one in October was to see him play. And both times I stopped in at Highland Springs, met Kelvin once. You talk about a Notre Dame type kid, Kelvin Gilliam absolutely fits that. The word that those close to him used to describe Kelvin is humble, and a really just a good young man who you enjoy talking to. But like we talked about with Brian, too good to pass up. I don't think a 4th defensive line. I'm going to say 4th. I'm not expecting David RBR to sign with Notre Dame. We'll kind of get that out of the way. So you have Gabriel Rubio committed, likely a 3-tech guy. You have Jason Anye, either a 5 or a 3-tech, and you have Will Schweitzer, who's going to be a solid Viper kind of guy. I don't think Kelvin Gilliam's like a 4th defensive line. It's like a need. Like we really need to fill that, like we've mentioned with some of these other spots. But I mean, 6'4", 260, number 79 overall player in the country per Rivals, number 7 defensive tackle. Notre Dame's got a shot here. I mean, Oklahoma was recruiting him for years. Notre Dame offered 3 or 4 weeks ago, and here they are with a shot to flip them. I mean, that just speaks to what, Mason? That Notre Dame can just come into this recruitment and maybe flip this kid. Is it the brand? Is it Notre Dame is just presents an opportunity that just other schools don't?
Yeah, it's all of the above, really. It's presenting an opportunity to get a great education and play football at a higher level, actually, than we've seen in a while. Like I just mentioned, knocking off the number one team and moving into that elite category. The Notre Dame defense has been one of the best in the nation, if not the best in the nation. And who wouldn't want to join that? Defensive tackle like Gilliam, who can come in and make a real impact. Like you mentioned, he's a Rivals 100 player, a top talent. He's been committed to Oklahoma for some time now, but the fact that he's listening to what Notre Dame is saying is significant, I think, considering how Oklahoma has been recruiting him for a long time. Notre Dame gets into the picture just over a month ago and starts recruiting him there, and he's listening. And whether he pulls away or not, I think it's significant that Notre Dame can get into these kind of battles late on and still give itself a chance.
I mean, there's more recruits, guys. For the sake of time, we're not going to spend a ton of segments. If you guys want to ask different questions about recruits we're not specifically covering, we'll get to your comments. So just hang tight on some of those questions. Again, reminder on Super Chat, we've had a couple so far. We really appreciate that. It gets me fired up that you guys would even open up your pockets and wallets and do that for us. So really appreciate that. Quick word. Thanking Blake Way Art for the panorama that you can view behind me in all of our videos here. This thing is sweet. You can go to panoramas.com or bluegoldonline.com for more. And again, we have the promo code Nike75. Go to blueandgold.com. All of the information for that is there. You can email me directly, msinger@blueandgold.com. If you have any questions. We were going to talk about Donovan Edwards, but I don't think people really care. Literally, Steve Kerr, head coach of the Warriors, is in here wanting to know about it. Do you guys want to know, talk about Donovan? Yeah, the people want to talk about Donovan Edwards. So here's the thing. Michigan's not doing too good. Michigan's the perceived favorite. I mean, look, you read any article, any outlet, for months, what the perceived thing has been, Michigan is the leader. I mean, you see the future cast, 93% is in for Michigan. The 7% was for Ohio State, and the guy who put it in for Ohio, because Ohio State was the heavy favorite. But they filled up at running back, and we're like, look, sorry, we're not taking you. We're filled, we're not adding anymore. And that guy who put the Ohio State pick in is no longer at Rivals, so that's why it's not 100% for Michigan. But you really have to wonder, Michigan's struggles plus Notre Dame's successes, everything is just kind of, if Notre Dame is to pull off this recruitment, this is what they needed. Notre Dame beating Clemson, what they've done with the running back room. There could be a thing of, if I'm a coach recruiting against Notre Dame here for Donovan Edwards, well, Chris Tyree and Kyron Williams are Notre Dame's top two backs, and they are a freshman and a redshirt freshman. Well, the thing about Donovan Edwards is he's been used a ton in the slot this year at West Bloomfield, so he could get early playing time as a jet sweep kind of role. So he could get 4 to 6 touches a game as a true freshman, even with Chris Tyree and Kyron Williams, because Notre Dame is going to keep running the football for years to come. With this, how they're recruiting an offensive line and tight end, how good at blocking they are, and this running back recruiting has been very good, and development, I should add. So Donovan Edwards, if it's like an early playing time thing at Notre Dame, I don't necessarily see that. Again, I want to note that with Edwards, familiarity is going to be a big thing. The school he's most familiar with right now is Michigan, right? The second school that he's still considering, I want to say, is Notre Dame. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. He visited Notre Dame last December, and before that, I want to say it was February or March of 2019. It was for a basketball game, junior day type deal. Blake Fisher has been pounding this young man over and over again to build that relationship. So look, I don't think he's been to Oklahoma. I don't think he's been to Georgia. Those are some of the other schools that are really mentioned with Donovan Edwards. So I don't know if it's going to happen. Another interesting thing here to note, Mason, is that he was going to decide after his high school season was finished. Well, now, since Michigan shut down for a few weeks, his season's delayed, and I don't think his season's going to wrap up until after the early signing day. So I don't know. Like, so maybe in these next 3 weeks, he maybe tries to go take a self-guided tour of Notre Dame. So there's just a lot here to unpack with Donovan Edwards. So there are some big fish on the board. Donovan Edwards, and this is in the 2021 class. Donovan Edwards, Kelvin Gilliam, Caleb Jones. There's just some big names out there in Mason. The last year's class, that 2022 class, you had Ramon Henderson. That was really the only 2021 or 2020 they were recruiting the entire fall and winter. And then this year, it's just a lot different.